Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about remote viewing. I am really excited. I know I haven't posted a Psychic Sunday with Jackie in a while, so I wanted this to be a really fun kind of topic to get back into everything. I know I haven't posted a claircognizance Psychic Sunday yet, and it's because I'm having a little bit of trouble coming up with exercises for that specific clair, so bear with me on that, and that should be posted in the next couple of weeks. I'm just trying to make up some original kind of ideas and exercises. So I really enjoy the topic of remote viewing. I think it's one of the coolest subjects in the psychic kind of realm, and I had a really cool experience with remote viewing that I also want to share in this video, along with a couple of exercises that you can do at home, sitting on the couch or in your bed or whatever. Very easy, and I will get into that later in the video, so make sure you keep watching and let's jump into it. So what is remote viewing in a basic sense? Remote viewing is basically the ability to visit a place in your mind without actually physically being there. So right now there are actually a bunch of documents that the CIA posted online that's accessible to the public. I actually fell down this rabbit hole one day online where I was going through, what was I trying to find? I don't know, but I found these CIA documents talking about remote viewing. I thought it was really interesting, so if I can find them, I'll throw a couple of them up on screen right now. And you can just go to the website. I'll put all the information in the description box below if you want to check out the documents and actually read through them yourself. So basically, the government was using people with psychic abilities to practice remote viewing, and they ran a bunch of tests to see if people were actually able to pick up information on a space or a location without actually going there physically. The tests are online, definitely in the documents that I showed. The results were a little bit disappointing, especially as somebody that is kind of clairvoyant and able to go and do this sort of a thing in their mind. I thought that there was going to be way more specific information that people were able to pick up, because when it happened to me, when I actually accessed my own remote viewing ability, I was able to pick up on a lot of really in-depth information. So I thought it was weird that the government wasn't able to find people that were able to bring through very specific things, and I wonder if it was just the type of test that they set up wasn't a very good test for some reason. So that's what remote viewing is. Remote viewing is getting into a meditative space and being able to go somewhere in your mind without actually being there, and that's why it's called remote viewing. This happened to me when I went to clear this woman's house. She didn't have any pictures of the house, so I wasn't able to do my normal scan for the cleansing beforehand like I normally do, and I was thrown off a little bit. I was like, oh man, like I really feel like I need to be able to do a scan for this property before I go there, because there was a lot of activity going on, and I wanted to know what I was getting into before I actually got on the property, like normal, like any of my other house cleansings. So I had her send me her address, and I went on Google Maps hoping that there would be pictures. The pictures on Google Maps were blocked by a tree line, so I couldn't see anything of the house. I couldn't see any structural things about it. I couldn't see the color of it. I couldn't see the door. There was literally nothing on Google Maps, and it was the crappiest picture I've ever seen on Google Maps before. So I decided to try this technique that I had read so many things about when I was first beginning my abilities, and I had never actually fully tried remote viewing when I was fully developed with my abilities like I am now. I wouldn't say fully developed, that kind of sounds like braggy. So remote viewing had always been a very interesting subject to me, because I was like, how does that work? Like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? How are people doing this? And, you know, did the CIA use people to do this? Because it would be so crazy, and the amount of information you can collect from a place without physically being on the property would give you so much insight into how to strategically plan, you know, military attack and all of this crazy shit. So I was like, oh my god, like, to be able to pick up on all of that information is insane. Like, I want to be able to do that. Forgot about it for years. But I remembered it in this situation because I was like, what am I gonna do? And I was like, you know what, maybe I should just give this a try. So let's just see what happens. It was one of the craziest experiences I've ever had in my own psychic development. What I did basically was I got into a meditative state. Through this meditative state, I basically looked at the address and I said, please, spirit guides, help me access this address as I entered the meditative space. So when I felt like I was ready, I took a couple deep breaths and I just pretended like I was at the door of the location. And I remember opening the door to this woman's house in my mind. I'm not actually physically there. This is remote viewing, so I was mentally there, and I opened the door. I walked inside and I turned to my right, and I distinctly remember there being a room that looked like a living room, and there was a couch pushed up against the wall, and the wall had like a window. So it was like this beige looking couch, and it was pushed up against the window, and there were these little I don't know, those little cabinets where like people put little trinkets in. There were two curio cabinets. And there were a couple of different things in it. That living room led into the kitchen. Anyway, as I'm turning to kind of get the view of the living room to do the scan of the property while I'm there in my mind, I see a bunch of people sitting on the couch in that room, and I was just like a little bit shocked, but I'm in this deep meditative space, so I'm not like judging anything. Everything's just happening and I'm observing basically. And this man jumps up off the couch and he walks over to me and he goes, "It's about time somebody comes and helps her, blah 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 blah, she's been going through all this by herself, blah 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 blah," like talking my head off. And I was just like, hey man, I'm here to help. I'm doing a scan. Please sit down. Like, it's going to be fine. We're gonna talk about everything. We're here to help her now. Everything's gonna be fine. And he was just like very like in my face about everything, like, oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. It was great. It was very memorable for him in particular. And then there were I believe there were 3 other people on the couch. This was a couple of years ago, so I can't exactly remember the number, but I do remember there was a woman, and I distinctly remember there being at least 1 other man that were sitting on the couch waiting as I was getting yelled at by this ghost, spirit man, spirit guy. He was the dad of the woman that owned the property, and he was just so upset that nobody had come to help her in so long, and that she had been going through all of this on her own. And he was like, basically her whole family had passed, like all this stuff, and just telling me these things. And I was trying to take mental notes of like what he looked like, what he sounded like, and he did come through with just a little bit of detail. I don't usually see spirit in very vivid detail, as I've talked about before in past videos that I've posted, but he had a very distinct build to him and a very distinct personality that was coming through really, really strongly. So I made mental notes of this. I did a little bit more of a scan throughout the property, and you know, long story short, I won't get into it, but there was stuff with the land, there was stuff with other spirits in the house, and there was basically her entire family had shown up to want to talk to her. So I took a little bit of a brief tour throughout the house, but I couldn't hold the state in the remote viewing for as long as I wanted to pick up even more specific details, but I got a rough idea of the layout of the house. And when I came out of the remote viewing experience, I drew a map of the outline of the house and the layout of the house, just so I wouldn't forget. I wrote down every single thing that the man told me. I wrote down his personality, his characteristics. I wrote down stuff about the woman and the other man that I saw. You feel crazy when it's happening to you, but you just have to trust, and that's part of the process, is being able to trust yourself and the information that you're getting, and not judging it and not second guessing it when it does happen. That's the biggest thing with remote viewing, and that's why I feel I was able to do it and not judge the experience now, because I have developed my abilities a little bit further along. Whereas before, I think if I would have tried this back when I was first developing, I would have second guessed every single piece of information that came through during that little walk, that little mind walk I did through the house. That is one of the biggest things about this, is to just let the experience happen to you and don't judge it, don't second guess it. Just be there for the experience, be there to observe. It will be a great experience if you let it. I came out of my trance state, I drew the house layout. I went to the house. I kid you not, the door was the same color, the layout was the same, and there were definitely a couple of details that were not correct. Don't get me wrong, it was not a perfect first experience of remote viewing, like not everything was 100% correct, but the one thing that stood out to me was I walked into the house after she let me in, and I turned, and in the living room there was a wall with a window and a beige couch pushed up against the wall and the little curio cabinets that I had seen, and then the kitchen. I honestly was kind of in shock because you just think you're making it up. You think you're making up this story, and if there's no way to validate it, you just believe that you've made it up. So having that validation was incredible for me, and really helped me gain confidence. Actually, during that house cleansing, I realized that my job was to just go there and deliver messages from her family that had passed and that had come through in the remote viewing experience. That was actually one of the only house cleansings I was unable to complete by myself. I had to bring in a different group to help me clear that house, and they are still working on it to this day. My role was very important for her own grief process, and basically bringing through messages from her family in that way were so helpful. And as soon as I started to describe her dad, she was like, oh my god, like that's totally him. He's so defensive and he's so up in people's face and he just talks and talks and talks. The moral of the story is remote viewing can be a great experience if you let it, and for this little video, I wanted to add in an exercise that you can do at home to start practicing your own remote viewing ability. This is actually an exercise that I picked up from Noreen Rainier, I hope I'm saying that correctly, the Practical Psychic book. I really enjoy that book. She has a lot of very practical, obviously practical because Practical Psychic, ha! She has a lot of really good exercises that you can do if you want to start developing your own abilities. She's worked on cases, she does workshops and talks and stuff all across the country, and I just really enjoyed the book. So if you want to check that out, I would highly recommend it, but I'm going to take an exercise from her book and I'm going to kind of tweak it around a little bit. I'll put latitudes and longitudes of different locations that you can practice at home visiting. So what you want to do for this is, just like I was saying earlier, you want to get into a deep meditative state where you are really into the meditation. So give yourself a good like 10 minutes or so to really get into this deep state. That will make it a lot easier. So do a 5 to 10 minute meditation prep before you open your eyes and look at the latitude and longitude that I'm going to post. So what I did was, so I didn't have to be flipping through the book, I just wrote down the latitude and longitude on a note card. So I wrote down one on one note card, and then I wrote down one on another, and then I would pick it up after I got into a meditative space, and I would ask my guides to help me go to the location of the latitude and longitude. I'd close my eyes, and then I would imagine myself opening a door into the place. So it doesn't mean that the place is going to necessarily be a house or anything like that, but it helps with the visualization of, okay, I'm ready to kind of go. So you're kind of training yourself to open the door and then you're in a different space. I hope that makes sense. I know I'm probably butchering this explanation just a little bit. It's nice to imagine yourself going out into something new to get yourself in the state of mind of, okay, I'm leaving this mental space that I'm currently in and I'm visiting a new space. And as you open the door, start to take into account what you're experiencing. Are you feeling a breeze? What does it look like? What does the area smell like? Are you seeing any really amazing landscape? Are there people there? How crowded is it? Are you alone? What are you feeling physically? You might feel stuff in your throat. You might feel like the sun on you if you're in a desert or something like that. You might feel the history of the land. You may see, little images playing, or you may feel a sadness if it's something associated with like a really bad like historical event happened there or whatever. So I'll post a couple of really easy ones just so you can kind of get into it, and then what you can do actually is ask someone to pick latitudes and longitudes for you of specific places and make them maybe a little bit more challenging to test your senses a little bit, and then just see what you can pick up. And then after you get out of that meditative space, after doing the remote viewing exercise, you want to write down every single detail that you picked up and then go check yourself on Google and see how accurate you were. After you've figured out where the latitude and longitude is, put the place name into Google and, you know, view the pictures of the place. So if I picked Alaska for you guys, if I picked a specific place in Alaska, you know, is it in the middle of a town in Alaska? Is it, you know, in the middle of nowhere in Alaska? Is there snow? Is there, you know, beautiful landscape? Whatever. Write everything down that you get, and then you can go back and check yourself later. That is a really fun exercise to do. Make it fun. Don't put, you know, any stress on yourself. I will say one tip for this is the first time you do it will be the easiest, and that's because you're open to the new experience of remote viewing and you're not judging, you're not second guessing yourself. Definitely does get harder though as you continue doing it, because on the second and third try, if you do it in one sitting, you're going to be a little bit more tired and you're going to be more likely to judge the information and overthink the information that you're getting. So I would recommend starting with one, build that confidence up, be open to the experience, and then if you want to do another one the next day, you can continue to do that and like just be open to the experience. What happens is the ego comes in and says, no, that can't be right. You may start to kind of overthink the second or third one. So I think it's better to, when you're first beginning, spread them out like 3 days and do one place each day and just get as much information as you can, and it will really help to build your confidence. Also, don't be hard on yourself if you just cannot pick up on any information. It's a more difficult skill to have. I mean, if you go and read these CIA reports, it's like people were only able to pick up on shapes or like lumpiness if there were mountains and stuff. So don't beat yourself up. Like, it's totally okay, and you can continue if this is something that you really want to practice. You can start to continue working on it and build your confidence, and you will be a pro in no time. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let me know down below if you do try the exercise. Don't spoil it for anybody else by giving away what the latitude and longitude is, but let me know how you liked it, if you tried it, and make sure you subscribe. I'm also offering readings now on my website, so if you want to book a reading with me but you're not totally sure about what the heck I'm going to do in the reading and you have questions, I am offering 20-minute live consultations to see if you and I are a good match for your reading. So yeah, that's it. I'm really excited about all the changes coming, and I'm so glad that I got this Psychic Sunday out for you guys. Also, let me know if you go to the CIA documents and check those out, because like, what the heck, it's like online public for everybody. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Dance moves sponsored by Monster. Just kidding, not sponsored yet, but maybe in the future one day. Alright.